Good morning. I would like to welcome you all to this legal compliance session on the COVID safe community events, group classes, clients visits, and also looking at your COVID-19 reporting. My name is Nihal Samara. I'm the General Counsel and Legal Director of the law firm Counsel Synergy, and I'd like to welcome you all to this session that we are running, specifically focused on running community events. Today's agenda is specifically focused around assisting agencies as they open up to deliver broader services and return to a sense of normal around some of the community-based events that are so critical to the services that you do run. We will be using a number of case studies today, specifically around how you actually join the dots together. What are some of the legal compliance areas that you need to carefully consider when running community events? And what are some of the tools that you may want to use as well too? As always, we'd like to pay our respects to the elders past and present upon the lands on which we all meet. While this session is being run by webinar, it is also being recorded and will be made available via our YouTube channel and circulated as a reference materials to all attendees as well too. We will stop the recording right up to the Q&A session of today's webinar. And at that point, we will open up both the phone lines and audio lines to stay on the line and answer any questions that attendees might have. So let's have a look at what we're going to be covering off today. During this webinar, we are going to be covering off what is a COVID safe event, what do you need to think about, what do you need to do as well, and also what are other agencies doing in order to look at what they need to almost check off in assessing whether they can run events or community events as well too, and how they are in fact doing this as well. We do acknowledge Ken Myers, the CEO at Refugee Connect Limited, who has given us permission yesterday to actually use his dashboard and also materials as part of showing you what other agencies do as part of a case study to show what is actually working and how they're managing their events. Ken is the CEO at Refugee Connect. They have organised an event up in Queensland this coming weekend, and we'll actually use it as a case study with Ken's permission to actually show you what they've done, what they're actually asking other agencies to do, and how they're joining the dots together to make sure that the event that they are running is actually COVID safe and meeting their requirements as well. So we do thank Ken for opening up his Gemba 360 COVID safe dashboard for our discussions and works today. With it, there are a number of legal compliance obligations from a COVID safe event, and this actually nicely fits with the webinar that we actually ran last week. Last week, we actually ran how to run an AGM that is COVID safe, and some of what we're going to talk about today is actually overlapping in terms of the legal compliance obligations, but also what are some of the systems and measures that agencies need to think about as well too. So for that reason, we have put the rule book up there. As part of being a charity, the services that you deliver need to still be in a charitable purpose. So that's why we've put the rule book up there as well too. But now when we're looking at community events, COVID safe events, group classes, there is work health and safety legislation that you need to think about, and we'll actually unpack what that looks like in today's session. There is also now the Public Health and Wellbeing Act in the relevant state and territories as well. And as part of that, we can actually see the events that are actually running as part of this process. So with it, it is important to be across what are the key COVID-safe public requirements that your agency needs to meet as well too. So in that said, it is certainly something to be aware about and what you need to carefully consider as well too. So let's actually have a look at also the Chief Medical Officer's determination as well. And that is also something that will actually guide it in the relevant state and territory that you actually are based in. One example of that is clearly in Victoria, where there are continued stage 4 lockdown measures. That is scheduled to change possibly on Sunday, but equally when you compare that to New South Wales, to Queensland, to Perth, to other states and territories in Northern Territory, South Australia. So there will be specific rules and determinations provided by your relevant chief medical officers as well too, that also needs to be considered. But by and large, when we look at events and challenges caused by COVID-19, there are a number of key rules that cut across areas. And that includes also for the likes of what we spoke about last week with the AGMs. So that may being that social distancing rules still apply. There may also be numbers of restrictions of people coming together as well too. There are current social distancing restrictions imposed by Australian governments in response to COVID-19, which may also directly restrict the ability to, first of all, hold any event or group class or the likes. And as I said last week, we spoke about AGM. So while you're looking to run COVID events, before you actually look at it, it is important just to be aware of what I'm going to say the baseline current rules in your particular state or territory actually is as well. And our law firm does provide weekly updates as the law changes to each of yourselves that have joined the newsletters and the likes to actually make sure that you're across the specific current rules for that week as well too. So essentially, what we are looking at here is the events and challenges caused by COVID-19. As I've mentioned, there are similarities to AGMs, and I'll cover that off as well. Agencies should consider really whether to hold hybrid or virtual events, group classes, or direct client supports. And I'll cover what a hybrid or virtual event is, but also then focus directly on how to open it up to hold a face-to-face event and what checklists and items you should have in place. So firstly, and this is something that is fairly common at the moment, a virtual event is using an online platform similar to what we're doing right now. To attend, people can vote, they can ask questions of you, if it's within an AGM type of environment, or if it's a community event around it as well too, they can obviously ask questions that you might have. And I know a lot of religious groups are using this type of process that we support at the moment around virtual events to actually get engagement with their clients or their congregation. Some agencies are now moving towards a hybrid event. And so a hybrid event allows clients to attend a physical venue or gives them the option to attend through an online platform. Now, as lockdown measures are being eased around the country, what people are looking at is, well, how can we return to move from a hybrid event to a face-to-face event? Or if we are running basically the hybrid event, what does that look like in terms of what we need to actually do? So essentially, how we work when we provide our legal advice around this, which we work with a number of agencies on, is to effectively go through this 6-part process. And so we're actually giving you kind of a briefing on how our lawyers actually will work through what or when an agency wants to run an event, whether it's a hybrid event or whether it's just a pure face-to-face event. What do we actually need to look at? Well, the first thing that we need to look at is the state laws. So does our current rules allow for events, community gatherings, group classes? As I've mentioned, there are clear differences between, for example, Queensland, New South Wales and Victoria at the moment or along the eastern board. And with that, what are the current rules that guide whether you can or cannot run key events? The other part is, does the venue that you're actually looking to hold the event have a COVID safe plan in place? Now, quite clearly, what has come up is that any workplace that is operating should have a COVID safe plan in place. And that includes how they actually manage their own venue. So whether it is a community space that you're looking to lease, whether it's a certified hotel type venue, each venue should actually have its own COVID safe plan in place. So essentially, if you're looking to run this, and this is something that we worked through with Ken at Refugee Connect even yesterday, and we'll show you what we've done around that and how he's actually managing his event, is to look at, well, can that venue actually provide you with their COVID safe plan on how they manage, how they clean the venue, what measures they've got in place for assisting to manage social distancing, all these types of things that you would expect to see in place as well too. The other part that we then look at is, what are the services that you are running as well too? Is it general community information sessions? Is it where people come and go frequently? Are people coming into the venue all in one at one window of arrival time, or are they coming and going? So you need to consider, well, what are the services that we are running? And that will then influence how you manage your COVID safe plan itself. And I'll show you what that looks like. The other part that you need to look at is, can I maintain the rules of work health and safety? And so from a legal compliance point of view, obviously work health and safety rules is nothing new, because it has been there even before COVID. However, with COVID-19, there are rules around work health and safety that is actually quite specific around social distancing, around cleaning, and we'll actually walk you through some of those checklists that Safe Work have provided as well too. In terms of what other things, in brackets, do I need to consider? Well, let's look at the COVID Safe Plan checklist and look at, well, what are the things that you need to also consider that might be quite broad? And those include things like even traveling to the COVID safe event that you're looking to hold. Are you carpooling? Those types of things do also need to be considered. And the last one is looking at the register of attendees. So we've got on, I'm going to say points 1, 2 to 5, the items that your agency needs to specifically consider. It is specifically focused around the venue. It's focused around your agency, whether you have staff, whether you only have volunteers. These are the 5 kind of areas that we tick off. Equally, as part of that process, the other sides that we also look at as well too is the register of attendees as well too. And when I say this, it is important to look at, well, how do you screen the people that are actually attending to make sure that they are themselves COVID safe, if there are any risks that you're identifying those, and also that you have a register of attendees too, that actually also then maintain your requirements. So if there is a outbreak or the likes or a close contact, that people can then also be contacted as well too. So let's have a look at what this looks like. So first of all, Safe Work have provided the social distancing, and they've got a number of rules around this and fact sheets again. So this includes things like the physical distancing measures, and this checklist will assist you to implement physical distancing measures, and they say at the workplace, but this can also be used at the facilities and event sites that you also use as well too. The other item that you do also have is the health, hygiene and facilities checklist as well too from Safe Work. And this checklist will assist you to implement health and hygiene measures at, again, your facility as well, and to do a review of your facilities as well. And this effectively is used to measure, well, is our space that we're looking to utilize safe from COVID-19 as well too. And lastly, upon exit as well, the cleaning of the venue. Now, this may well be done directly by the venue, I'm going to say owner, or they may require yourselves to do this after the event as well. But again, it gives you the key areas to actually mark off that and what and when you've actually done it as well. And I'll come back to each of these checklists as well, and you all have access to this. Now, the registers that I also spoke about as well too, this is a register that is currently being used by agencies all around the country as well. It's also something that was taken up by and provided for agencies in Victoria by the Department of Health and Human Services down in Victoria. And essentially, it provides the workplace attendance register. A lot of agencies have actually adopted this for their COVID-safe events. So with it, it means that they've then got consistency between the workplace and also the event that they're also running. And very clearly, what it quite simply does is gives you the workplace or the event name, the time of the event, the site address or the location, the contact person that's there as well, and more importantly, the date, the details, check-in, check-out of the person, and also the areas or the events that they've actually come to as well. And it gives you just a very simple attendance register to essentially use. Now, let's actually have a look at also the joining the dots. And the last thing that I will mention is around the COVID assessment. So essentially what you've got here is the attendance register for who actually attended. But what other agencies have actually done is to actually screen people that are actually coming through. So not just keep a register of who's actually attended, but also ask them to complete a form. And some religious agencies can certainly got this with Refugee Connects in terms of their session that they're running this weekend. But some agencies have actually used the COVID-19 daily assessment form, printed it out, and actually used it as a screening tool for any person that's actually coming in and asked them to actually attend it. Now, let me show you what this actually looks like. So essentially what we are just going to is the gemba360.com login. And I'm actually going to do this live for you as well too. And here we are here. So essentially when you log in, and you've all got access to this as well too, is to open up the COVID-19 daily assessment form. And this can actually just be printed out. Now, equally, it gives you the date and time of who's actually completed it. But what a lot of agencies are doing is actually utilizing it for as part of a screening tool to ask the questions for any attendees coming in. Do you actually have these symptoms? And it's a voluntary assessment tool that they're actually doing. By doing this, essentially people are actually screening people out and also screening them in. So if they answer no to all of these questions, that's great that they can actually enter. If they answer yes to one or more of these questions, then you know that there's potentially a risk before they even enter your event or venue. So essentially the COVID daily assessment form, what this does is brings together the key clinical and current epidemiological screening criteria that is used across the board to assess whether someone's actually potentially got or at risk of COVID-19. And so this is what you're essentially seeing here. This screening tool, together with the attendance record, gives you that assessment before people even attend your event or group class as well too, of whether they're at risk of COVID-19. So essentially what this gives you is that process. The other part that you do have access to in your document section, and I'm doing this all live for you, is you have in your, and I'll just bring up the register in the search area by clicking on search. What this brings up is the event register form as well, and I can simply download that. And clicking on this gives me essentially the event register that, again, I can actually print out. And these are tools that are actually available to you. It is just a Word document as well too. You can update this as you like, but it gives you the information that you want to see as well. And you can use this for one or more events, and it gives you a ability to actually use this very, very quickly. Now let's join the dots around the COVID safe assessment that I was talking about. Let's actually see how Ken's actually doing it with Refugee Connect on the weekend. So essentially, we've got the COVID safe event, we've got the checklist tools, we've got the screening event as well. Now, if we are going in, let's just click on the COVID safe disaster module. We're going into the projects section, and we can go into the COVID safe plan section here. Now, what Ken has done is gone in and yesterday created the COVID safe event, which is called Supporting Refugees Effectively. And quite simply, he's created this event here. Now, directly below this is his checklist, and you all have access to this. This includes all of the checklist tools, so we can go in if you want and have a look at under the documents. We've got the physical distancing, we've got the safe work checklist built in, we've got the workplace checklist referenced here, we've got the cleaning and good hygiene checklist from Safe Work as well. So those are the 3 and 4 areas that you actually want to include as part of your community group community event or group class in terms of the structure of what you're actually looking at. Under this section here, when you create the event, and you can go in and create the task, and let's say I've got another event, I call it weekend community event, and I can go through and save that. Now with it, I'm just going to go back and use Ken's one that he's got here. And essentially what I need to have a look at is, well, have I met all of these requirements? And I can go through and say, right, have I done the cleaning audit, for example? Oh, actually, let's pick an easy one. Let's actually have a look at enhanced workflow. Now, what does this mean? So essentially, when I go in, one of the requirements that we have in under workplace health and safety is to enhance the airflow in the event or the group space. So when I click on this, it says, where possible, enhance airflow by opening windows and adjust air conditioning. Now I can go through and actually mark this and say, I have spoken to the venue and they have sent us their COVID safe plan. And by doing this and working through, and I'll just update my spelling mistake. So I can actually, and you can see I'm just logged in as Ken with his permission, and I can click on save. And essentially what this gives me is the checklist that I've actually worked through. So essentially when I'm doing and running the community safe events, I've got the Commonwealth directives that I'm looking at. I've got whether I need to have a look at any policy areas, looking at whether there are any changes to state laws as well too. And most importantly, I'm looking for if there's any specific workplace health and safety requirements I also need to look at. And so by creating my COVID safe event, what I've effectively got is these checklist items running right down the bottom that essentially tells me, have I met the Commonwealth directives? Have I met my state directives? And have I got, as you can see here, the safe work items around workplace audits, cleaning audits, good hygiene, and physical distancing as well too. It also reminds me that I need to also have the workplace attendance register in place as well. So essentially I've got this as almost my checklist, and there are some things that, as Ken pointed out, let's say around carpooling, that we might have up here that says, look, it's only me, I'm the only volunteer that's actually attending that meeting, so I don't need to worry about carpooling. Well, in that case, just say, in this case, I can go in and quite simply say, not applicable to the event we are holding this weekend. So, and I'll just update my spelling mistakes for you as well too. And so you can see that we've then got this info here and it's all registered as part of this process. So essentially you keep on using this checklist over as you go through each part, and it'll guide you onto the key requirements that are coming out of the Commonwealth, the state, and safe work requirements in terms of meeting your COVID safe events as well. And that's essentially what Ken is actually doing in a live case study this weekend as part of that process. Equally, we've found that a lot of other agencies are doing exactly the same process. We've had religious groups right around the country. There are some religious groups that are actually working in all different states, and they're following the same process where they've actually got their COVID safe plan. Their speakers or their ministers are actually, again, utilizing the checklist tools to make sure that they've got their items in place before the community event. They are screening their congregation as they're coming through. They're keeping a register of their attendees as well. And so what this is giving them is essentially those requirements, and they're joining the dots with their COVID safe dashboard as well too. So the case study we have used has focused on Ken Myers out at Refugee Connect. What we are recommending that agencies do is actually review your policy documents that you have around this as well too. Create a task, as Ken has done, and measure against your own COVID safe plan activities, like what I've shown you on the dashboard that you all have access to. And certainly, if you have any questions, you can come back to us, as we've been supporting other agencies doing exactly the same thing around that. My mobile number has been made publicly available in order to support agencies as well too, and that's listed here, as well as our direct office numbers and email support as well. We will open up the phone lines, and more than happy to stay on the line and answer any questions that you might have. If you are watching this webinar after today's session, by all means, please contact us on 1300 360 360, or you can email us at support@gemba360.com. And this will include being able to get access to your own Gemba 360 COVID safe dashboard should you require it as well too. Thank you everyone for joining this webinar.